Hello, everybody. Joe Lucey here. We're having a little bit of IT issues as we get started here today. We are trying to make sure that we are recording this time, and I'm not sure that I know how to turn that on. So, Michelle, if you're able to do that from your end, that might be helpful. Reason I say that is last week we had a presentation that we were unable to do get the recording going, and therefore we were unable to share it afterwards. So we're hoping to make sure that we have that. Michelle, if you could let me know whether or not you can see me here. Is this thing working? If anybody can hear me, if you can just let me know that you are seeing this, let me know. Go ahead and just type something into the chat mode there, I guess. All right, looks like I am live. I apologize for all the hold up here. So, again, Michelle, I'm not sure if I'm recording or not, so let's see if there's a way that you can get that turned on from your end. With that said, I want to welcome everybody to this week's webinar here on the coronavirus. Sorry for the little rocky start here. This technology stuff has still got me stumped half the time. I see we've already got quite a few questions coming in, so we're going to spend some time talking about those, and I'll try to make sure what we got going on here. So welcome everybody. See Eric's on the line. Nora, how are you? Brad. So this week we've been doing these 15-minute little webinars, little catch-ups here, and this week's going to be no different than the other ones what we've been doing, except I'm trying to keep them a little bit more topical with what's going on. And if you joined us last week, there's going to be some repeat here because I really think that there were some big things that to bring up that I want to make sure that everybody has. So, the attorneys make us put a certain amount of disclaimer on here. Keep in mind that anything we're talking about this week here from Secure Retirement Radio, our Secure Retirement Financial, and what's going on here with everything in our economy, with the stock market, with your retirement, this is all kind of coming at us fairly quick and timely, and things change pretty rapidly. So let's just kind of keep in mind that if I throw out some tax ideas or some legal type things, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, I am a certified financial planner, and we've been doing this for some time. And again, the purpose of these are really just to kind of make sure that we all have some topical information, something you can put in with your retirement. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about this new $1 trillion stimulus package, what it means for you, what it means for your retirement, some changes to the tax laws that I think are going to impact your pension, retirement, 401ks, access to your money that everybody needs to be aware of. We're going to be talking about what's moving the market, where smart money is doing right now, what are some options for you with your retirement. Plus, we got a couple planning ideas, some things that you could do now, some proactive things. It's easy to, with everything going on, with the shelter in place and everything, to kind of become a little reactive. I think that smart things to do right now are to look for ways that we can kind of change our situation, ways that we can be proactive about it, and make a little lemonade here. So let's talk about that. Kathy, I'll come back to the question here that you just posted in a second at the end of the presentation. So I do see those. If you have questions coming along, and if you have things, go ahead and put them up there. I promise to make sure we spend some time at the end of this answering each and every one of those so that everybody has opportunity to get the most out of today's situation. With all that said, we're in a little bit of an interesting situation. I think most of us are aware that Minnesota is under a shelter in place. In fact, so is Western Wisconsin. Most states are, I guess. And what that really means is that things have changed a little bit about the way we used to do some business. Now, with that said, it's had very little impact, I think, overall on our office. I come in the office every day. Somebody's got to get the mail, make sure the checks are coming in, but the team are all working from home. We're pretty much doing business, I guess, as kind of normal as we can. The real change is that if we are doing meetings with clients, if we visit with you, we're doing everything virtually or through the phone. We have software such as this. We're using Zoom meeting. We've got this screen late. There's about 4 or 5 different ways that we're able to have telemarketing or telemarketing, video type conference type capability. If you like the old fashioned, just a conference call, we can do that as well, and such. But for now, we're all working from home. Pretty much everybody that is at home, everything's working well. We have emails. Everybody still has access to email. Everybody has access to their phones. We have the phones rolling over to certain team members with their cell phones. So you may have a short delay between the phone call you make and getting a phone call back. But I think for the most part, we've been really good about this. And I've had a lot of clients telling us just really how they haven't noticed too much of a change. Now, if you're in a situation, if you have questions about your retirement planning, if you, whether you're a client of ours or not, we're making sure that we have, trying to stay as proactive as we can here. So if you would like to sit down virtually, have a phone conversation, we are scheduling 15-minute, what we call strategy sessions. These are just 15-minute conversations about identifying the number one action step we can be taking right now in your retirement planning to make sure that your planning is well on track. And I think that for the most part, many of you that are clients of Secure Retirement Financial recognize that the planning we do is different than just investment strategies. It's really kind of helped us weather a lot of these things going on and such, but we're there for everybody. So if you'd like to schedule 15 minutes with us at the end, there's going to be a way to do it directly on our calendar. Hopefully that technology works. If not, you can call our offices, and if you even put a little message in there, we'll make sure somebody reaches out to you too. But the number is 952-460-3260, 952-460-3260. That's an easy way to get 15 minutes on one of the advisors' calendars. Isn't it interesting? I just rub my face on how conscious you are of that, and maybe something that you shouldn't be doing. Maybe I should be bringing attention to it. Let's talk about what's changed here. Right now, we have 1.2 million total confirmed coronavirus cases. That's across the entire country. More specifically in the United States, since just last Monday when we were doing this, we had 143,500 cases. That was up threefold from the week before, but it's up now about twofold to about 350,000 right now. In Minnesota, we're up about twofold from last week. We're up to 503 cases. Wisconsin's also doubled their cases in the last week. Things are definitely, we can see that there's a lot of concern to be going on right there. But the reality is, and as we was watching the news here over the weekend, it seems like we might be coming to the end of the beginning, or at least the beginning of the end. I don't think we still probably have a couple rocky weeks here in the next few weeks to get to the end, or to start to see us getting back to normal. Hopefully that happens by the end of this month, or not sooner. But I think we're starting to see some of these progress here. There's some good news out there about different treatments and such that I think the markets have actually been acting fairly positive around. Keep in mind, the stock market itself is a forward indicator, meaning that the markets itself will probably bottom out prior to the coronavirus getting behind us. A good example of that is just 2 weeks ago, one of our first 15-minute meetings like this, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the 30 companies that represent kind of how the economy is doing, had been at 18,500 thereabouts. Today, we are at 22,230. That was just a few minutes ago before I went live here on April 6th around noon. So, we're already up a good, I think I did the calculation, was 25% from the bottom. So things are maybe we've already seen the bottom, maybe not. I'm not sure. The good news is that most of you already know that having a plan in place is kind of very beneficial when we get into these kind of things. All of this stuff has caused some market turmoil. We've got the markets up, the markets down. This only went through last week. I was able to clip it out of last week's news article I found, but you can see up 9%, down 12, up 6, down 5. It's been a shaky road. That's why a lot of you that have plans in place, it's not just about a portfolio. Knowing that we have places we can take money, knowing that we have places that we can that we have a place that we can be has kind of been beneficial. I see Greg asked about going into cash. Give me just a few minutes on that, Greg, because I think that that's a really good question, and I know that a lot of you might be wondering kind of the same thing. So staying the course is really important. Nobody likes to lose money. Nobody likes to lose money even more when the markets are taking away a lot of our hard-earned savings really quick. But we've also know that by creating these plans, studies tell us that 63% of families are worried less about their retirement planning or their finances. 73% actually feel more peace of mind. And by having these plans in place, you're 2 times more likely to feel confidence. Now, again, when we're right in the mix of everything, sometimes it's hard to kind of feel that way. So that's why we're offering these 15-minute check-in phone calls, what I call strategy sessions. If you have not had a chance to sit down with one of us, feel free to take advantage of that. Whether or not you're currently a client of Care Retirement Financial, we want to be here to help while everything's going on here. And the reality is we know that your goals are real, your fears are real, and your money is real. So we need to make sure that we have a plan in place. If you don't have a place, if you don't have that peace of mind, let's sit down and take a few minutes just to kind of see if there's anything that we should be doing here. This right here is an interesting chart because what it shows us is from the bottom of the stock market, how the stock markets tend to react after the bottom. So going back to the very top row there, where in 1929 to 32, we saw a 86% drop in the stock markets. The following year after that, the market was up a whopping 163%. 2 years later, it was still up 170. 5 years later, it was up 344. The problem with trying to get out of the market, maybe getting into cash now, and trying to get back in is that you always have to be right twice. Now, being right short term sometimes feels pretty good, but the real question is, are you able to get back in? I talked a little while ago. Markets are already up from 18,500 up to where they're at right now, 22,230. The markets are leading indicators. I don't know if we're going to have to go back down to where we were, but I really do. Personally, can't guarantee this. This is not something that's kind of my own, what I'm doing with my own portfolio is I realize that the markets are very likely going to be higher in a year, probably more than certain they'll be higher than they are from here in 3 years. If your time horizon in the market is farther out than the next 6 months, sometimes the best course of action is just make sure you have a good plan in place so that you can capture some of these gains as we start to come back. So that's about making sure that you have a plan in place that goes beyond just the portfolios. Again, if you have questions on your own specific situation, give us a call. Happy to be available to you. We want to be a resource to everybody out there. Let's talk about some of those things that we can be doing now. What are some things that you need to know, and what are some proactive steps that we can be taking? First of all, tax filing deadline has been postponed to July 15th. That means that if you have not filed your personal returns yet by April 15th, if you're scrambling to try to get that done, you're going to have until July 15th to make those. And not only that, if you owe money, you get to wait till July 15th to get them back. Now, some of you have refunds coming. They're still processing refunds. So maybe maybe not push that off till July 15th. But if you have money due, there's really no benefit to making those payments earlier, except for just knowing that you've maybe checked that box. That's a big one. A lot of people are talking about no required minimum distributions in 2020. In fact, if your first year to take a required distribution was supposed to be last year, but you waited till April 1st and had not taken one, guess what? You still don't even have to take one this year. So nobody has a required distribution this year. The reason why is that the IRS realizes that by forcing families to take money out of an account that's been beat up like this, that many families have seen, they could actually be causing a whole lot more harm than good. One of the big rules around financial planning, around income planning, is never to take money out of an account that's been depressed. Make sure that we're protecting ourselves from what we call market value adjustments. There's a lot of different ways that we've helped a lot of you do that. And looking at those kind of products that can offer that protection, whether it's cash or even some of the other insurance vehicles out there, making sure that we have that money that doesn't go down. But either way, the IRS realizes that many families, for a variety of reasons, do not have all their money protected. They're over the age where they have to take required distributions. They be forced to take out money that instead of taking 4% out of an IRA, for example, that they might be taking out 6 or 8, and that's a real problem for many of the families out there. So, in fact, that's one takeaway maybe from today. If you are looking for cash, if you need money for an expense, try not to take it out of your investment accounts, the money that might have come back and down in value. If you have it in the stock market, try to do whatever you can not to touch that money going on right now. Not having to take a required distribution is going to be a big advantage for many people. However, if you have expenses, you've got bills, maybe look for other places. I recently had a conversation with somebody that we had a 15-minute strategy session with, actually, and they had $40,000 sitting in cash in their savings. And they said, well, that's our safety net. That's what I call that teddy bear money. We sleep better at night knowing it's there. Well, when we kind of reviewed things, they need about $10,000 a year out of their portfolios. And by taking $10,000 of that 40 now, while the markets are still down, they actually had about 4 years to let the stock market recover. Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to take 4 years, but maybe taking some money from some of these other places might be a better idea. If you still run into an emergency situation, I guess then you get forced to take it out of the lower account. Again, sit down with our team here. If you are looking for how to create some additional income, if you have an expense, unexpected or expected, let's sit down and figure out what some other options might be so you don't have to take money out of an account. We got to make sure we're protecting against market value adjustments that so many families are going to be getting hit with right now. Early access to your retirement accounts. For families like that are already retired or nearing retirement, if you're, many of the families we work with this may not be the best option for them, but you might have family members that need a little cash or something, and you might be able to help them out. Historically, we've always been able to take $50,000 out of a 401k. Well, half the 401k could be borrowed and then up to $50,000. They just exceeded that. They brought it up to $100,000. So now I can borrow $100,000 from my 401k and my employer-sponsored plan that passed on to the TSPs, the thrift savings plans, the government employees, the Minnesota deferred comps, the 403bs. All of them are allowing us to take out up to $100,000 now. In fact, I think it's unprecedented. I think it's ever been passed before. I can actually take money out of an IRA now up to $100,000. So if you need a little bit of money, you can take that out, $100,000 without penalty. In fact, they're giving us 3 years to pay it back. One of the questions we get is, can I pay it all back this year? You can, but it's low interest, might make sense. If you absolutely need to, you could take it and then pay it back over 2020, 2021, 2022. That might make some sense. Question I got here last week, can I roll that money into a Roth IRA? Probably not. You can't take the money out. So I know that there's some misconceptions out there. I can take my money out of my IRA, roll it to a 401k, and I got 3 years to pay it back because of this rule about having the early access. Probably not going to be the case. While the law, when it got passed, doesn't specifically talk about that, it's kind of against the spirit of the law, is what Ed Slott is telling me, and we probably don't want to do that. I think they're going to close that up and such. You might get caught on the wrong end there if you're thinking about doing that. But if you need the money, if you got expenses, you got a family member that needs to, let them know that they can take some of this money out, and they're going to have a little bit more time to pay it back. Let's talk about the Stimulus Act. There's two pieces of this. There's the consumer piece, and then there's the business piece. So the small business piece, actually, there's some large business stuff too. One of the biggest beneficiaries of the Stimulus Act is actually the federal government. So, but Stimulus Act, everybody's going to get, not everybody, many of you are going to qualify to get a $1,200 per person payment if you've got children, $500. There's some income thresholds there. The next slide talks about some of the small business things going on. If you are a small business owner, if you know a small business owner, if you have a neighbor that's a small business owner, have them give us a call. There are some really neat things here. And as a business owner myself, I've been really close to this. I wanted to make sure, and talking to a lot of different people, we're hearing there's a lot of misconceptions about how this is going to work. Even if you don't necessarily need financing, there's some things that can be done here as far as paycheck protection programs to help make sure that families or that employers don't necessarily have to lay off employees, things like that. Then we also have the economic income disaster loan program, which helps with payroll, but can be used a little bit more broader. A lot of different things there. So if you are a business owner, know a business owner, have them give us a call, 952-460-3260, or in a little bit, we're going to have a way to try to do that online. You know what? I wanted to talk here a little bit about some other things here. Maybe not. We talked about the RMDs, no required minimum distributions, tax date. A lot of help out there for businesses, access to your accounts. There's a lot of things that are going on and a lot of information out there. So if you are looking for something, I appreciate every one of you that are clients of ours and have trusted us with your savings and together plans. I think that we hear it multiple times a day about how, families are saying, Joe, we're glad that we did the planning we did. We're glad that we have a certain amount of our money that's not being forced to take it out. We're glad we had the discussion around mailbox income, money that has to hit the checkbook each and every month. I don't have to worry about the markets coming down, market value adjustments. Yet, we've also got money set aside for long-term growth. It's really kind of a more comprehensive plan. A lot of times families come to us, they say, Joe, make sure I've got all the income I need. Don't make me sacrifice on my lifestyle. And that's one of the promises we make. Number two, take advantage of some of this market volatility. Awesome time, maybe the best time in 40 years to be moving money from IRAs or tax-deferred money like IRAs, 401ks into tax-free. We've been doing a tremendous amount of families are moving money from these tax disadvantaged assets like this into Roth IRAs. We can show you how to do that. Had families that are now looking at life insurance. How can I use life insurance as another alternative to a Roth IRA and yet can give me some things like long-term care benefits. It also can grow tax-free, can be used later on. I had a client email me right before this. Hey, Joe, I wanted to make sure that indexing annuity that you had with us isn't gone down in value. It has not. Part of these accounts have not gone down in value. Follow-up question on that is can I add to that? Yeah, you can. If you've taken out the policy within 18 months, we can add to it. There's some big changes going on with some of the carriers. In fact, some of the carriers are making some pretty big changes at the end of today. So if you wanted to see how that might work in your portfolio, take us up on this 15-minute conversation here that I'm proposing. This right here is a picture of Oliver Cromwell. Some of you might think it looks like Shakespeare. It's not Shakespeare. He was a British general, and he's kind of known for this saying, trust in God, but mind, keep your powder dry. And the way that came is they would be attacking probably the French or somebody. They'd have to go across the channel, and as soon as they got across the channel, they'd have to be able to start shooting their muskets. If they had wet powder, they were in trouble. Well, a lot of families are finding that right now. If you're concerned about where you're at, if you aren't sure if you got enough powder dry, give us a call. If you have a plan in place with us, though, keep in mind that for the most part, many of you have got that in place. Not everybody has used these indexing accounts that we've used. A lot of families it's not appropriate for. So one of the things to do is make sure you discuss that with us. A couple other things. You have your money in the market. Take a look at taking money out and doing some dollar cost averaging, or not dollar cost averaging, but taking some tax selling and taking some capital gains, some capital losses that can be used in the future. If you have a large lump of sum of money, maybe you've got money that you're like, Joe, is now the time to put it in. Consider averaging it in. Maybe don't put it all in at once. Take it in once now and take another, add a little bit more in 2 weeks or 30 days, and then add another portion down the road. It allows us to get more of an average price that allows you to kind of ease into things. Also keep in mind that having an asset allocation is super important right now, but more important is making sure you have an overall plan. Again, trust in God, keep in mind your powder dry. Make sure you have a plan in place so you aren't taking money out of the accounts when they're down. Do whatever you can to avoid doing that right now. Have we seen the bottom? I don't know. Nobody really knows. We'll have to kind of look back at it. But if we are really going to come to the peak here this week, and if you look at other countries around the globe, and we are going to come out of this here in the next week to 2 weeks, I think we're awfully close to we've probably seen the worst, and maybe pulling to the sidelines now might not be the best thing, but everybody's situation is different. So give us a call, take advantage of the 15 minutes, and let us give you some ideas. I'm going to throw up a offer. I'm not sure how well this is going to work. We're going to see. And do I publish it? I don't know. Is that showing up? Maybe I can use oh, I don't think that worked. It might not be there, but there's an offer out there. If you go out there, there's a way that you can get on one of our calendars with one of our advisors here. If somebody on my team could text me and let me know whether or not that's working, that would be great. But I did try to publish a little offer out there so people can go ahead and click that. You can automatically click the 15 minutes. If you need more time, give us a call. Again, the phone number's here. That bottom cell phone number is an actual personal cell phone. I'm carrying that, so I encourage you to try to email us first at info or call the office number. You'll be redirected. But that bottom number there is a cell phone if I need to get a hold of you, or it sounds like that calendar offer is working. So let's have you call that and just automatically get on the calendar. So let's talk here. Stimulus has a clause allowing employees to stop Social Security payments until end of the year. Tom, I'll look into that. I'm not sure what that one would be. Why would we want to stop Social Security payments unless maybe it was causing us some taxes, would allow us not to convert as much? I'd have to look into that, Tom. I do know that they offered some things in the stimulus package around payroll taxes, payroll tax deferment, and things like that. So I'm wondering if that's what that's about. But I will, Tom, if you can make sure that you shoot an email to us at info@, I'll make sure that we can get back to you with an answer on that. First quarter taxes in Minnesota. Minnesota hasn't changed their tax rules yet. I think it's going to be a little interesting what goes on here. According to a couple of conversations I've had with some CPAs, everybody's kind of expecting that Minnesota is probably not going to force us to make our payments. I mean, you can't file your Minnesota taxes until you have your state or your federal taxes completed. It's just kind of part of the process. So we're expecting that Minnesota is probably going to comply with the July 15th. The answer is on the first quarter taxes, you're going to want to end up making those up anyways, but it sounds like you don't need to necessarily make those quarterly taxes. Again, I'm going to kick that down to a CPA, and I can certainly help get an answer from an enrolled agent or CPA if we need to get that answer. But I believe they're saying that you can hold off on this first quarter's payment. Nora, how's it going to stimulate or affect your pension? No effect to your pension whatsoever. It's going to be additional money, $1,200. In your case, $2,400 because you're married. but you don't even have to be filing a tax return. They're going to go off of your Social Security benefits that the IRS also has access to. And if you haven't been filing taxes, because many of you are aware of this, Social Security by itself is completely tax-free. A lot of families we work with, if we can get all this tax-deferred money so there's no required distributions and you don't have a large pension, a lot of times we can help families get into a 0% tax bracket by understanding that Social Security by itself is tax-free. And we can kind of come back. That's something we could talk about too. There's a good opportunity right now to look in that. I don't know anything about the the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department combining. I think that they'll probably keep those separate. Greg, I'll reach out to you here this afternoon. It looks like somebody was having some connection problems. Still frozen, connection. That was probably me. This is all probably going back to when I was having a slow start here. So hopefully, Kathy, we should talk. Make sure that you take advantage of that 15-minute conversation. Let's get you some answers so that you have some clarity on some direction that you can, some things you can do. Again, that 15-minute conversation. Number one, in 15 minutes, we aren't going to be able to solve the world problems here, but we can help you by sharing with you the number one action step you should be personally taking right now to make sure that you're in the best situation. Sometimes that's opportunities that are there for you that you can take advantage of, and sometimes that's going to be making sure that we don't make any mistakes right now with everything kind of going on. I don't see any other questions. Required minimum distributions. Dottie, I hope I answered that. What's an RMD? A required minimum distribution, Colleen, is it's when you turn 72. It used to be 70 and a half. This is the next year will be the first year will be 72. IRS says we have to take a certain amount of our money out of our accounts. It's called a required minimum distribution, and we can share with you on that 15-minute call or afterwards how that would work for you specifically. That might be the easiest way to go forward with that. And anyways, I think that's all the questions we have. I'll tell you what, we're going to do this again next Monday. Hopefully it goes a little smoother. Last week was a little smoother. This week was user error here on my part, but I hope that everybody got something out of this. And again, the purpose of these, if you know somebody that is looking for help, have them give us a call. I'm not we're going to offer these to anybody that needs our help right now, whether or not they are real serious about maybe looking for some help. I just know that there's a lot of families out there. We were on a call with a client of ours that was trying to get hold of one of the bigger 401k mutual fund companies. Is an hour and 15 minutes into it, and we still had not had anybody on the phone. When we finally did get somebody, it was pretty obvious that they were working from script, and they basically told us they weren't able to help us that day. So I know that there's a lot of families out there looking for help. That's one of the values we bring, and one of the planning things we do. So all in all, it's all about three things: making sure you have income, taking advantage of taxes wherever we can. There's a lot of opportunity out there in taxes. And finally, if we can grow your wealth, that's what we're going to do. But we aren't going to ever forget that it's about getting the income first in retirement and potentially putting us in the best tax situation possible. With that said, that's all we have for this week. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of this week. Stay contained, stay healthy. Hopefully nobody's getting impacted personally on this, but we pray for those that are. Keep the hands washed, and we're here for anybody that needs us, so feel free to give us a call. Have a great rest of your week.